We're back today with 10 more tips. This is part 2 in our 4-part series. And today's 10 tips are going to focus on how you rock out real estate by making sure that you're sinking your teeth into the right kind of deals. All right, we are back and we are going to hit you up on the next 10 tips for how to successfully invest in real estate. Starting off with number 11 is...
11 is the median. Now, we're talking about the median home value, right? You've got a sampling of homes. You've got high-priced homes and low-priced homes. The median is the one that falls right in the middle. And so we don't want to go above the median home price in any area that we're investing in. Now, many of you know we don't just invest here locally. We invest in the best markets around the nation. And no matter where we go, we want to make sure that we are investing below the median. That is super important.
And this works for anywhere you are in the world. The median is a really important figure, and that really ties into tip number 12, which is single-family homes. So what homes at the median price? Single-family homes, which means, Stephen, do we do condos?
No.
Do we do townhouses?
No.
Do we do multifamily?
Not really.
Are we doing commercial?
No.
Now, you can do those strategies, but we're here giving you tips for how to be the most successful brand new real estate investor. So we want to invite you to play in single-family homes that are purchased below the median. National median is usually hovering around 200 to 250,000. There are homes, for example, you might be in New York City where you're like, well, Kris, you know, the median is $1 million, or you might be in San Diego where it is, but you could also be in other places where the median is like 100,000. For your area, we want you to be underneath the median. If you want to know what it is, there's this really cool device. People really haven't even heard much about it.
It's pretty amazing.
It's called Google.
Yeah.
And you could say, what's the median home price in, and then put your city or your county. And then you're going to know, oh, Stephen and Kris want me to buy single-family homes underneath that price range, because that's where you're going to find the majority of people that can buy your real estate, and that is a huge help.
Number 13, right? This is market familiarity. You want to get to know your marketplace. Now, there's a lot of ways that you can get to know your market. Again, Google is an amazing place where you can go just to find out all about your general vicinity. Drive around, find a little bit about where you are, what's available where. Get price per square foot. So if you want to really know what your market's going for or what's familiar in your area, then identify what the price per square foot is. So for example, you've got a $100,000 home. It's got 1,000 square feet. You divide the 1,000 into the $100,000 and you've got $100 per square foot.
Now,
right?
This is important because if you're focusing on median homes that are single family, that are beneath the median, and you get used to price per square foot, here's what you're going to find. You're going to start doing your calculations on, let's call it 2,000 square foot homes. And it'll be like, well, this one's at 100 a foot, this one's at 85 a foot, this one's at 90 a foot, this one's at 60 a foot. One of these kids is not like the other ones. Remember that from Sesame Street?
One of these kids is not like the other ones.
All right. So what we're going to do is that's the home that you want to zone in on, because it means that there's a really good smoking deal there. You just got to finish fleshing it out.
Absolutely. Okay, number 14. 14 is a CMA. Now, what is a CMA? This is fancy language. We're getting to jargon here.
Comparable market analysis.
Absolutely.
Price per square foot means we think we have a good deal, but then you got to get with the realtor and say, all right, let's actually take this home that I'm looking at and compare it to the other homes that have been sold in the area, not just listed, but actual solds. And you can take in the last 6 months the 2, 3, 5 homes in the area that are as similar as possible, and then put them into a report, and your realtor can pump out a CMA that would basically say, wow, you know, it looks like you're able to buy this home for $150,000, but it looks like compared to the other homes that have sold in the last 6 months that are most like it, it's worth $170,000. Well, there's a $20,000 equity position that is possibly there. So CMA gives you a much better indication of what kind of equity might be in this home, because if I'm going to buy a home, buy it in the most advantageous way possible.
Yeah. Okay, the next one, number 15, is home visit. Now, there's a lot of people that they kind of get a thrill out of this idea. I can buy a home sight unseen, right? I can just take this one down. It's gonna be fantastic. But the reality is you really should have feet on the ground looking at these homes. Now, it's interesting. The first time Kris and I went out of our local market and started doing out-of-state properties, we put this amazing power team in place. We had literally feet on the ground who are going and looking at all these different homes. And if you understand the way auctions work, I don't know if you've ever had an auction or been on the auction steps. You put these bids on, right? This list comes out, you put the bid on the home, and then you're like praying and hoping, okay, hopefully that bid was good, and hopefully this home is really there, and hopefully the wall on this home is, the outdoor walls are still intact. I can tell you that's another story for another day. But anyway, the point is you want to make sure that you are seeing these properties and making sure that when you're putting those bids in or when you're putting it under contract, that it's good enough. Because if it's not, that can mean the difference of you making a lot of money in this home or losing a lot of money on this home.
So Thursday, Friday, Saturday around the country, you're mostly having the sheriff's auctions, and homes are being auctioned off. And every week our team goes in and evaluates thousands of these homes. And I'll tell you that often we have to bring cash to the table on the spot so that we can pay immediately. And we wouldn't dare bid on anything that we hadn't first gotten to the house, gotten in it. So visit the home. Check it out. You need to have a chance to start looking at, are there any major problems that, like maybe the house is infested with mold, maybe there's a meth problem. You might not be able to notice that by visiting it, but after it's under contract, you've got an inspection period. You got to have boots on the ground, whether it's yours or somebody else's.
Yeah.
Now let's take us to number 16, which is, all right, so what kind of home should I be buying, Stephen? Should I be doing things that need cosmetic repairs or structural repairs?
I'm going to say structural repairs.
Really? You want to put $30,000, $40,000, $80,000 into a home? You want to jack up a home off of the ground and be like, yeah, there's no risk in any of that. There's no way this can go wrong.
Yeah, structural repairs.
Stephen, you know the answer. It's cosmetic repairs.
I want to buy a home. Let's
duke it out.
Let's do it.
Okay. Get down. Okay, no cheating. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Real ones. 8, 9. I'm gonna win. Cosmetic wins, even if I don't. Structural. Cosmetic. Oh my gosh, chest day was today. What did you work out today? I don't know. I thought you said arms. Oh my gosh. You're slowing down. I'm not slowing down, I'm just getting my breath.
I don't know what number we're on, but I'm going way faster than you.
Yeah, but I'm gonna. And you're last longer. It was chest day. Oh my gosh, that was really.
I did triceps.
Okay, you win.
Structural.
It's actually cosmetic. Don't do. Okay,
you're right. Okay, all right. I won that one, but I will concede. It is cosmetic. You don't want to get into structural.
I'm sorry you didn't go to the gym today.
I did.
No, you didn't.
Well,
I worked out my chest today.
Okay.
I'm gonna cry like a little schoolgirl. Cosmetic. Only do cosmetic work, right? Like, what is cosmetic, Stephen?
Cosmetic is the small things. No. Cosmetic, we're talking about the homes, the small things, the paint. Maybe you've got some scuffed up walls. Maybe some carpet needs to be done, right? Just the small little things. These aren't huge, major projects. We're not talking about getting into the thousands and thousands of dollars, several hundred, maybe up to 1,000 or 15, maybe even 2,000. But once you start getting into major repairs, if they are structural issues, if the roof needs to be replaced, some of those things aren't cosmetic, and they just start to eat away at your profits.
And the moment you find a property that has $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 worth of work, you can find another deal that is probably a better deal that doesn't need any of that. All right, do cosmetic work, ignore structural. If you go in and it's like, oh my gosh, this is a major overhaul. This house, it's amazing how $30,000 of a repair job can turn into $40,000 or $50,000, and all of a sudden on a flip or on a long-term hold, you've sunk all sorts of money in on a short-term or a long-term play, and it just puts you in a bad position. So focus on cosmetic, not the structural stuff. That's a whole new level of expertise.
And where you're going, this actually gets us into our next step. This is step number 17, or success tip number 17. And this is paying attention to the ARV. Now, ARV. The ARV is the after repair value. So
I think of aardvarks.
Aardvark.
But really, it has nothing to do with that.
It has nothing to do with that. But after repair value,
I saw an aardvark for the first time in my life at the San Diego Zoo last night.
Was it exciting?
It was really exciting. It was a wild-looking thing. It was had porcupine hair.
Nice.
It had this really long snout, and I'm like, aardvark.
Have you ever seen the show Biz Aardvark?
No, I haven't. But let's tangent more.
My kids have. It's pretty amazing. Okay, ARV. Let's get into it again. Are you going to do something?
ARV.
Yeah. Okay. The ARV, the after repair value. This is what Kris was just talking about, actually. Which is, what is the home worth after you've put in these repairs? Because if you put $20,000 into a home, but it's only going to increase the value by $15,000, your after repair value doesn't support those types of repairs.
And this isn't just for the purchase, this is for selling, right? I mean, how much work you put into a house when it's time to bring it to market. I can't tell you whether you should fix it up all the way or whether you should fix it at bare minimum, because the market is going to tell you that. If it depending on whether we're in a bull or bear market, whether the market is up or down, buyer or seller market, that's what's really going to determine what competition looks like. Right now, if there's a lot of homes in the market, then generally you need to fix up your house pretty nice to put it a cut above the others. But you also might be in a market where there's almost nothing on the market. Like we're in an economy right now where there's not a lot of inventory. And it is amazing that you can get away with way less work and people are willing to put sweat equity in. And so again, it's like, okay, I'm ready to sell my house. If I sell it as is, I'll get 150 for it. But if I put 10 grand into it, I'll get 170. Well, how'd you like to make a 50%, 100% return on a $10,000 investment? Put 10 in and get your money back plus 10 more. That's a 100% return. So ARV, this is really important real estate acumen when you're evaluating a project and wondering, well, when I buy it, maybe there's a good equity position, but I need to look at what that position is after I have brought it up to speed that I need to. And similarly, when it's time to sell it, because you might rent it for 4, 5, 6 years, then it's time to sell it. Your lease option comes to an end. Maybe the people don't move forward on buying it. Okay, number 18, real estate as a job. Ooh. You know, I'll tell you, there's a lot of people out there, and this is one of the worst scenarios I've ever seen. Someone has become a realtor or they're doing something in real estate. They're not an investor, but because they're swimming in real estate all day long, they actually think that they understand real estate as an investor. Yeah. When the reality is you can have an immense amount of knowledge about the real estate market. That doesn't mean that you're a real estate investor. That just means that you have a job in real estate. And meanwhile, well, you got a job working 30, 50 hours a week. Investors, I mean, often I sell a house like the home that I just sold. I got paid a $20,000 check. My partner got a $20,000 check. I put in a total of 2 hours on that deal, which meant that I was making 10 grand an hour. Right? That's real estate done super intelligent in our done for you system that I love about it. And yet I just ran into someone that recently said, oh, my brother, you know, I've been trying to get him into real estate, but he's an inspector. And she said he's an appraiser. And I'm like, oh, so he thinks he knows everything. She's like, right. I said, does he own any investments? No. But when she tries to talk to him about it, there's this, I know it, I got it, I have it all figured out, because you're identifying with it on a regular basis. Don't confuse a job from an investment.
I've got to add something real quick to this. So I was out in Denver. This is a couple years ago. We had some clients that were working with us for a while, going through our system, doing some amazing things. And then they looked at me one day and they said, Steven, we wanted to get into flipping. They said, we followed your system, we had great success, bought several homes, but we really wanted to flip a house. And they said, so we did flip a house. And I said, well, great, well, how did it go? They said, well, it actually went pretty good. We ended up getting this amazing deal. We put some work into it, and we made about $25,000 on this home. And I looked at her and I said, that's great. And she kind of looked at me and her countenance kind of shifted. She said, well, it really wasn't that great. I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, we did the math. I said, okay. She said, yeah, that $25,000, after I divided all the time that I put into it, all the time that my husband put into it, at the end of the day, we figured that each of us made about $5.75 an hour.
Wow, below minimum wage.
Now listen to this. I looked at her and I was kind of trying to jab a little. I wanted the lesson to sink in. And so I looked at her, I said, can I help you understand something? You could have gotten a job at McDonald's and you could have doubled or tripled your investment. Now let me ask you a question. Is getting a job at McDonald's, Kris, an investment?
No.
No, it's not. Neither is doing real estate like a job. So if you're going to do a real estate, do it like an investor. Don't do it like a job.
Awesome, Steven. Point number 19. You got to know how to crunch the numbers. Now in real estate, that doesn't really mean that you have to be some math nerd, that you need to understand how to do deep algorithms. Crunching the numbers at the end of the day really means I can take a look at a deal, and within the scope of my strategy, I can evaluate my profit centers. Here's what that would mean. If we're talking, for example, on a lease option, it means that I know what I'm buying the property for and what kind of potential equity is there. It means that I can crunch the numbers on a minimum purchase price that I may sell it out in the future, so that I can know if I sell it in 2 years at a price no lower than this, how much I would make. It means that I can factor in my cash flow and my down payments, deposits, maybe even look at my tax benefits. and my repairs. And if you can evaluate all of that and have a good, realistic guess on what the numbers are, you're prepared to actually move forward on that deal. So if you want to be a successful investor, you got to know the numbers. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but Kris, I failed math. Like, I'm really good at dancing, or I'm really good at sports, or I'm really good at science. Math, not so much. That's okay. Have someone on your team that gets the math. Don't blindly purchase a property without knowing what it means to successfully have crunched the numbers and understand your best hypothesis on the money you can make. Part of it is a crystal ball. We don't know what the future is going to do, but the right strategy is something that can counter that by putting measures in safe for good margins of safety. And at the end of the day, if you're going to pull the trigger on a property, you want to make sure that you understand enough of how you're going to make money on it and what worst case scenario looks like, so that at the end of the day, you can know, wow, if things go really well, I might make 15% off each year on my money for the next 5 years. If things go really well and I take the market into account, it could be as much as 20%. But if things don't go according to plan and I have really high repairs here, or if I have tenant vacancies here, then my return might drop to 12%. All right, we got a high at 20, we got a low at 12. And J. Bichet, French economist 1800, said that creating wealth is moving assets from low yields to high yields. So if you have money at 3% that you can have worst case scenario at 12%, then you did a good job there, because you're getting 400% more on your money, 4 times more on your money, with a high of 6 or 7 times more on your money. And that's crunching the numbers is really how you ultimately know, when do I pull the trigger? How do I make good decisions? Because ultimately, and I just want to elaborate on this for a second. When I was reading Snowball, Warren Buffett, he got to the end of the book and he said, imagine that you only had a finite number of investments you could make in life. And he called it a punch card of 20 investments. If you're only going to make 20, then make sure that they're winners. And crunching the numbers and having a philosophy will help you do that, which leads us to tip number 20.
Number 20 is the best strategy. Now, look, I get it. There are so many different resources that you can go to. There's been umpteen million books that have been written about investing and real estate strategies and all these different things. And I'm guessing that you're probably like us. You want to know what the best strategy is, right? So Kris and I, we both worked for a company years ago. I mean, seems like almost a different lifetime, doesn't it?
It really does.
Right, years ago, where we were on the phone.
Really young.
We were very young, on the phone talking to people who were in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that were calling us saying, I'm scared to death because I've done everything right. I've gone along this path. I've got the schooling, got the job, making the money, and I'm looking towards retirement and it's not going to be enough. What do I do? And they were asking us for that best strategy. And in the industry at the time, the strategy that was given was, well, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Well, what's your best idea? And they don't know. That's why they're calling us. So let's get real. What is the best strategy that you would say in real estate?
And we put our foot down and we wrote a book about this. It's called The Straight Path to Real Estate Wealth. And at the end of the day, we were looking for a strategy that would meet these 6 criteria: least time, least effort, least risk, most profit, work in up and down markets, and provide a service. You might have noticed that the last video on the top successful tips, the first 10 tips, all had to do with any of those 6 points. Those were 6 of the things that we talked about: least time, least effort, least risk, make the most money, work in up and down markets, and provide a service. And that for us really comes back to lease options. A strategy where it doesn't matter what your credit is, doesn't matter your age, and doesn't matter how much money you have, because we're going to leave banks out of it, we're going to leave your pocketbook out of it, and we're going to show you how to do creative real estate where you can buy homes. And if you have a home, this is a fantastic strategy of how to sell it in time in the most profitable way possible. So, by the way, click the link up here and have a chance to review some of what our best strategies and options look like within Lease Option, because we can help any of you in the next 90 days get your first deal under your belt and actually turn you into a real estate investor. You should check that out, because that's our definition of a best strategy. Now you get to decide for you what that looks like, and we'll help you out if we can. I hope you're enjoying this video series. And if you're thinking to yourself, man, I'm learning so much about real estate and I just want to jump in head over heels quicker and faster, then I want to invite you to click the link where you can get more immediate access to some of the different ways we can get you rocking out real estate. Because when I work with you, I want to see you doing deals within the next 90 days. Otherwise, join us back, because the next video is going to be about the top 10 tips for my #1 all-time favorite strategy in real estate, the lease option.